Dissecting the Cowboys' most recent game, it was an embarrassing performance against the Philadelphia Eagles, losing 34-6. And in this loss, this is now their 5th consecutive loss at home, dating back to that wildcard blowout loss to the Green Bay Packers. And in 4 out of the 5 losses, they have been blowouts, with the exception being to the Baltimore Ravens in Week 3. And it's been since Week 3 since this team has scored a touchdown at home. That's going back to the early days of the season in late September. It is now, at this point in this record, it is November 11th, so almost 2 months. And frankly, with Dak Prescott shelved for the rest of the season, I don't know if they're going to win a home game this year. I think their best chance is probably Thanksgiving against the New York Giants, who, let's face it, I think this is going to be one of the worst Thanksgiving slates that you'll ever see. So make sure this year, out of all years, you spend time with your family, because the Thanksgiving slate in the NFL is absolutely garbage in 2024. But getting back to the game, while the Eagles maybe weren't at their sharpest in the first half, they were able to wither the storm a little bit, especially after a couple of Jalen Hurts turnovers. Now, he's been perfect basically since the bye week where he hadn't had a turnover, but in this game he did have a couple turnovers. The first one I thought was definitely on him, the red zone turnover, a cardinal sin in football, so I call, where he's just trying to find Dallas Goedert in the end zone, and that's a touchdown if he makes the read a little bit faster, but Trayvon Diggs makes a great play on it, closes the gap, cuts off the pass, end zone interception. And then on the heels of them forcing a Ezekiel Elliott fumble, Jalen Hurts proceeds to fumble on the next possession, and that leads to the Dallas Cowboys having a 1st and goal from the 6-yard line. So 2 bad Jalen turnovers, but thankfully they only escaped with giving up 3 points, as the Eagles were to hold up pretty strong thanks to Jalen Carter getting a tackle for loss, coupled with CeeDee Lamb losing a pass that was intended for him in the sun at AT&T Stadium. And if you're thinking about the 2 turnovers that didn't turn into much for the Cowboys, it just comes back to the offense. Now, while Cooper Rush came into this game owning a 5-and-run record, I think in that previous run, it was a very different roster, and in this 2024 edition of the Dallas Cowboys, the defense isn't nearly as dominated, and there is no run game to rely on, and that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, Cooper Rush finished with an anemic night. I mean, he averaged 2.0 yards per pass, lost 2 fumbles, and just was a horrific afternoon for Cooper Rush. Now, it remains to be seen if he's going to be benched for the future for Trey Lance, as Trey Lance got some time in this game, and Trey Lance didn't seem any better either, as he ended up with a interception to CJ Gardner-Johnson in the second half. And getting back to the Eagles side of the thing, in the second half, after going into halftime up 14-6, they slammed the door shut in the 3rd quarter, scoring a couple more touchdowns between Jalen Hurts' legs and his arm, and closed out the game on a 27-point unanswered run. And that's dominant football. I mean, you take care of the bad opponents, win comfortably, and honestly, the Eagles didn't even play all 4 quarters. I mean, they rested most of the guys with about 10-11 minutes left in the game, and with that quick turnaround on Thursday night against the Washington Commanders, that might prove vital for them getting some extra rest and some downtime before this big divisional clash between the Eagles and Washington Commanders on Thursday night. And very quietly, the Eagles have now won 5 games in a row, and that attributes to them playing great complementary football. Defense has picked it up, getting after the quarterback, forcing turnovers, and the offense has found some balance with the run game and the pass game, especially with the run game, because you're seeing an emphasis. They're sticking with the run thanks to Saquon Barkley having a couple explosive games. And credit to Nick Sirianni. I mean, it's been a hard few weeks, hard couple of years in Philly, but I mean, yes, this guy comes up with some very head-scratching moves, but he's been 41-19 since he's joined the Eagles, and whatever you want to say about him, he does win a ton of games, and he does have success in the playoffs. Now, we'll see if they can continue to add to that this postseason, and they also have a lot of work to be done, but it is looking really good for the Eagles as they look to be Super Bowl contenders in this season.